I'm gonna go ahead and start picking the corn, at least at the farthest end of the garden, because we are gonna try to get all of this done today. It's supposed to rain at some point this evening, and I definitely want to get it down before then. But this furthest section of the garden, I'm not really expecting a whole lot of corn, probably just enough to fit in my box, because I did an experiment with doing closer spacing. I usually do 12-inch spacing for the corn, and I left these much closer together, and they all grew really pathetic and small. So I should be able to knock this out really quick. And then this evening, when Glenn gets home, he's going to get the corn crib and move it into the garden. That way, it'll be really quick to just throw all the corn that we're picking into the crib. I'm sure the amount of corn that we'll put in the corn crib will look pretty insignificant, because we definitely don't have enough to fill it up. Definitely not even halfway filled up. Probably enough to like cover the bottom. But you gotta start somewhere. And originally we thought we were going to have a good bit more corn than this. But that second and third planting, whatever you call it, of corn that I did, it never did anything. So far at this end of the garden, I am seeing a whole lot of mold, which is really disappointing. In fact, I figured this section of the garden would probably fare the best, because you're gonna get these wind gusts that funnel down through that power line right away. And it tends to be, have really good airflow down here. But I can just tell when I go to pick some of these that the husks just feel damp, and generally if the husk feels damp, there's going to be mold inside. I hope this doesn't bode really bad for the rest of the garden, but we'll see this evening. Hopefully there's not too much damage, but down here it doesn't look good. I'd say another big problem with doing less than 12 inches spacing on the corn, that's probably why this didn't dry down really well and I've got so much mold. In fact, I would say probably 50+% of this is just gone, just mold. And I would expect that impedes really good airflow. So I'm hoping that because the rest of the corn was spaced 12 inches apart, that probably dried down better than this. But this was an experiment. I just wanted to see what would happen with this small section of the garden. Lesson learned. I'm always kind of like the little kid that you tell not to do something, and they're like, why can't I do that? Well, I'm like that, and I just want to go do it and find out for myself. So I like doing all of these like mini experiments to see firsthand, why doesn't something work? Why can't you do that? Because a lot of times when you read stuff online or whatever, it says this is the way you have to do it. But most of the time it doesn't really say why it has to be done that way, so I just want to know. The other day we went ahead and threshed the rest of that wheat that we had left to do. It was just like a few handfuls, it wasn't that much. But then we went ahead and also started winnowing it. And we tried to use like our leaf blower, but it was a little bit hard to control the flow and keep that consistent. And I think we were starting to blow off some seeds. So we did get a good bit of it done, but there is a little bit more that I need to blow out. And I also need to go ahead and sort out some of the big stuff using screening methods. And I don't have like a really great way to screen it. I think the thing that would be ideal is to have that 1/4-inch hardware cloth and have that on a frame and to screen through that. And Cold Spring had a pretty neat idea of maybe it'd be possible to use a a cutter bar for a tractor. Like if you could find a way to use that to shake it through a screen. Pretty interesting idea. I like that idea. I'm just going to use different sized strainers to get the wheat through and all the mess and get it as clean as I can. If there's a little bit of stuff left in it, so what? It's organic matter. You can eat it. Roger. No, ma'am. Not too bad, considering. I need to clean it up just a little bit more, but it's pretty much there. I mean, I would definitely cook with this like it is, so what if it's got a few little pieces of chaff in it? We ended up with 3 pounds of the hard red spring wheat, and I should get 3 nice loaves of bread out of this. Honestly, it's more than I expected to get. And I do think now that we've gone through the whole process and seeing the yield that we got, that we will be pursuing more experimentation with wheat moving forward. In my opinion, the work that we put into it, the time we put into it was well worth it. And honestly, it wasn't really that labor intensive. The only real labor intensive part that I found was actually harvesting the wheat, which would go a lot smoother if the wheat was planted better. So I'm really excited. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for potentially growing a lot more wheat. In the next video, I'm going to turn our wheat into bread, and I'll walk through the whole process of how I grind my wheat and how I make my favorite bread. But today, a little too busy for that. I need to go make pizza dough, because probably by the time I get done with that, it'll be time to go harvest the rest of that corn. The good news is that so far the corn that we're picking in this other section of the garden, it looks like there's very little mold. So I think the majority of our corn is going to be okay.
Put it in Bodie's bucket, then you can get Bodie up here to jump in it. But that would be a problem because you have to take the wheelbarrow, fill the wheelbarrow, dump the wheelbarrow to Bodie's bucket. Bodie's bucket and stuff.
We managed to get all the corn picked and into the corn crib, and then moved it underneath the equipment shed. And it was no longer, we did that and it started raining. So everything actually worked out really well today. All things considered, I'm really happy with how our dry corn harvest worked out. We're definitely gonna have some dry corn to feed the chickens this winter. And I think it's really cool to see just how much we put in here and how much that filled up this crib. I mean, there's a ton of room left in here for us to add more corn. And honestly, it would be a whole lot of work to hand pick and shuck and fill this whole thing with corn. Could it be done? Absolutely. But I think if we went to a scale much larger than this corn crib, we would probably want to mechanize it to some degree. But it's very exciting. Really interested to see how this turns out, and we put it under our equipment shed just to be extra safe and certain. I feel like this year has been such a great success, and today definitely was, but especially compared to last year. We're moving in the right direction with everything and slowly gaining the knowledge and skills that it's going to take us to be as independent from the food grid as possible. So it was a good day.
Nothing's hard, everything is easy with you around. No bombards, everything is easy when you come.